When people hear the phrase Grand Canal, they often imagine one long ditch connecting North and South China. But that picture is too simple. The Grand Canal was a linked system of rivers, artificial channels, embankments, storage points, locks, labor networks, tax routes, and canal cities. At its most important moments, it worked like an inland logistical spine. It moved grain, officials, troops, information, and commercial traffic across a huge political space. That mattered because Chinese history was never just a story of dynasties rising and falling in isolation. It was also a story of how states managed distance. The canal helped make distance more governable. It reduced some of the friction between productive southern regions and political centers in the north. It gave rulers a way to feed capitals, stabilize armies, and tie regional economies more closely together. So the real question is not only why the canal existed. The better question is why a water system became so central to the durability of Chinese states. The canal mattered because North and South China did not always produce the same kinds of strategic value in the same proportions. Over time, the South became increasingly important for grain, commerce, and population, while major political centers often sat in the North. That created a structural problem. How do you move enough food and material over long distance to support a capital, a bureaucracy, and the military power behind it? Overland transport was expensive and slow. Coastal shipping could help, but it was not always the easiest answer, especially before later maritime systems became more mature. Inland water transport, when it could be organized at scale, offered a different solution. The canal did not erase geography. It worked with geography by connecting major river basins and improving access between them. In that sense, the Grand Canal was a political answer to an economic map. It was built on the simple fact that a large state spread across very different regions needs dependable ways to circulate essential goods. China had canals before the Sui dynasty, so it would be wrong to say the whole system appeared from nothing in one burst of imperial will. Earlier states had already experimented with canal building and river linkage, but the Sui dramatically expanded and integrated the system, and that scale shift changed history. The dynasty is often remembered for huge construction projects and heavy burdens on labor, and that part of the story matters. A canal can be a masterpiece of statecraft and still come with enormous human cost. Both things can be true at once. What the Sui demonstrated was that an empire could use hydraulic engineering to reorganize space itself. Water routes that had once been local or regional could be linked into a much larger framework. Later dynasties inherited, repaired, redirected, and expanded that framework. So the Grand Canal is best understood not as one ruler's monument, but as a long civilization project. The Sui were decisive because they made the canal imperial in scale, not because they finished its story. The canal's deepest importance was logistical. Grain transport is the clearest example. States need predictable supply, and capitals need food that arrives in volume, not in theory. The canal helped make that possible. It also supported official travel, taxation, military movement, and the growth of canal towns that became hubs of exchange. Once a route like this is established, it does more than move cargo. It begins to organize institutions around itself. Granaries, inspection points, maintenance labor, repair schedules, dredging, embankment work. and local administration all start to matter. In practice, that means the canal becomes part of how the state eases and manages territory. This is one reason historians care about infrastructure so much. Roads, walls, ports, and canals are not just passive backdrops. They shape what kinds of states can function at scale. The Grand Canal helped capitals remain capitals by making supply less fragile than it would otherwise have been. The canal was never a fixed machine that worked the same way forever. Dynasties changed, capitals shifted, river behavior changed, and the canal system had to adapt under later dynasties. Especially when Beijing became politically central, the canal's strategic role could become even more pronounced. But this also meant vulnerability. Sections could silt up. Floods and Yellow River changes could disrupt routes. Maintenance was expensive. A giant hydraulic network survives only when states continue to invest labor, money, and administrative attention into it. That is why the Grand Canal reveals something important about Chinese history. It shows the difference between building infrastructure and sustaining infrastructure. The first act can be dramatic. The second is slower, less glamorous, and often more important. Canal history is full of rerouting, repair, and institutional adjustment. In other words, the canal helped hold China together not because it was permanent in a simple sense, but because generations kept finding ways to keep it useful under changing conditions. Today, the Grand Canal is also a heritage object, but treating it as heritage alone would miss the larger point. It is a reminder that China was shaped not only by ideas, armies, and dynasties, but also by systems that connected ecological regions and made coordination possible across distance. The canal linked north and south materially, and that material link had political consequences. It helped feed courts, support administration, sustain cities, and deepen exchange between regions that were different but increasingly interdependent. It also reminds us that integration always has a cost. Large systems require maintenance, labor, and constant negotiation with nature. That is part of the reason the canal still feels so historically powerful. It lets us see China, and not just as a map or a sequence of rulers, but as a problem of connection. How do you hold a vast country together over centuries? The Grand Canal was not the only answer, but it was one of the most durable and revealing answers ever built.